Usually, every Dutch sentence starts with the subject. For example, ik ga naar de markt. I'm going to the market. But sometimes you hear things like, morgen ga ik naar de markt. Why do we usually say ik ga, but sometimes ga ik? Before we continue, I would encourage you to watch my videos on basic word order and making questions, because if you master both of these subjects, this will be really easy for you. In the video on making questions, we saw that in order to make a question, you switch around the verb and the subject. But this is something that we don't only do for questions. Sometimes we want to put a very important word at the beginning of the sentence in order to emphasize it. For example, the time. If you really want to emphasize when something happened, then you can put it at the beginning of the sentence. If we take our example, ik werk morgen misschien in Amsterdam, then we can see that we have a long sentence with a lot of elements. Ik, the subject, werk, the verb, morgen, the time, misschien, other information, and in Amsterdam, the place. This is exactly the order that we saw in the word order video, so no problem there. But what if we really want to emphasize morgen? If we want to put morgen at the beginning of the sentence, that means that it's really important. That means that it contrasts to a usual situation. Normally you don't work in Amsterdam, but tomorrow you do. Or tomorrow you work in Amsterdam, but not the rest of the week. So that's a situation where you might want to put morgen at the beginning of the sentence. Now, when we put another word that is not the subject at the beginning of the sentence, then we also need to apply inversion. So we need to invert the subject and the verb. We need to switch them around. So what does this mean for our sentence? It's actually very simple. The rest of the sentence stays exactly the same. Nothing changes at all. All you need to do is switch around the subject and the verb. And of course, we need to put morgen at the beginning of the sentence, because that's what we set out to do. So the result becomes, morgen werk ik misschien in Amsterdam. Morgen werk ik misschien in Amsterdam. Tomorrow, I might be working in Amsterdam, rather than I might be working in Amsterdam tomorrow. Let's take another example, another long sentence with a lot of elements, but it shouldn't be difficult for you. Je moet het licht aan het einde van de dag uitdoen. Je moet het licht aan het einde van de dag uitdoen. You have to turn off the light at the end of the day, for example, in an office. Now, all of these elements are exactly where we expect them. We start with the subject, je, followed by the verb, moet. At least the first verb. There's another verb at the end, uitdoen. Then we get the time, aan het einde van de dag, at the end of the day. That's exactly where we expect everything in the sentence to fall. Now, if I want to stress that this is something that needs to be done at the end of the day and not at some other time, then I can put at the end of the day at the beginning of the sentence. So we want to start with aan het einde van de dag. What does this mean for our sentence? Well, everything else stays exactly the same. There's only one thing you need to do in addition to putting something else in the beginning, and that is switching around the verb and the subject. So what this means for our sentence is, aan het einde van de dag moet je het licht uitdoen. Aan het einde van de dag moet je het licht uitdoen. Aan het einde van de dag moet je het licht uitdoen. Now we've seen two examples where we put the time at the beginning of the sentence. And it's very common for this to happen. We often put time at the beginning of the sentence when the moment is actually very important to the conversation. But this is not the only type of word or clause that you can put at the beginning of a sentence. You can also put adverbs like misschien, maybe, or hopefully, hopelijk. Adverbs like this for thoughts, desires, your mood, you can put them at the beginning of the sentence as well. Let's take an example. Hij is al naar huis gegaan. Hij is al naar huis gegaan. He has already gone home. What if we're not sure about this and we want to add maybe? We can add this in the usual position. For example, hij is misschien al naar huis gegaan. However, we might want to add this to the beginning of the sentence to really emphasize that we're not sure about this. Then you start with misschien, but then we have to switch around the verb and the subject. So instead of hij is, we say is hij. Misschien is hij al naar huis gegaan. Misschien is hij al naar huis gegaan. As you can see, the rest of the sentence stays exactly where it was. Nothing else changes. All you have to do is switch around the verb and the subject. So now we've seen time, we've seen adverbs like maybe and hopefully and other such words. What is the general rule? How can we make this into a nice rule that we can remember? Well, just remember it like this. In a normal Dutch sentence, so not a question or anything like that, you always start with the subject. Always, always, always. However, if you want to start with any other word that is not the subject, it can be the time, it can be a word like maybe or hopefully, or it can be the place or anything like that. If you want to start with anything that is not the subject, you always have to switch around the verb and the subject. Because in Dutch, the verb always wants to come in second place. So if you put anything before it, it still wants to come in second place. Now let's practice. Let's take an example sentence. Ik ga vanavond niet naar de les. Ik ga vanavond niet naar de les. I'm not going to class tonight. What if you want to emphasize that it's only tonight that you're not going, but tomorrow you'll be there again? You will want to put vanavond at the beginning of the sentence. So what is the result? What does this sound like? Well, the answer is vanavond ga ik niet naar de les. Vanavond ga ik niet naar de les. Maar morgen wel. But tomorrow I am. Let's do another one. What if we take the English sentence? Tomorrow I want to buy flowers. Tomorrow I want to buy flowers. How would you say this in Dutch? The answer is morgen wil ik bloemen kopen. Morgen wil ik bloemen kopen. We could also say ik wil morgen bloemen kopen. That's the normal order of a normal sentence. We start with the subject, ik, followed by the verb wil. Then we put the time, morgen. Then we put other info, like here the object, bloemen. And then the second verb comes at the end of the sentence, kopen. Ik wil morgen bloemen kopen. But if you want to emphasize that this is a plan for tomorrow, and it's important to state that I'm doing this tomorrow, then I can put morgen at the beginning of the sentence. And then we get morgen wil ik bloemen kopen. So there you have it. It's really easy. That's all there is to it. Now, if you master all of these subjects, then you can put together a really nice, correct Dutch sentence. There is one more topic I want to cover on word order, but that will come in a later video. Thank you so much for all your support. Thanks to all of the supporters on Patreon, and thank you very much for the comments that everybody left on the previous videos. I really, really appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.